Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone. It gives me great pleasure today to introduce to you Her Grace Madhumati Devi Dasi. She is the wife of Sesha Prabhu, who spoke last week. She's the daughter of an Indian diplomat, and she says she was raised in 4 different countries, 4 different continents. While she was pursuing an engineering degree in Ireland, she came in contact with the Krishna consciousness movement while she was looking for meaning to life. And that's how she came then to America, which is her place of birth, and joined Srila Prabhupada's movement and has been engaged in that service, in serving in ISKCON since then. She has been married since 1982. That's 38 years, more than some of you are alive. So that's an amazing feat. They have 2 lovely daughters, one of whom lives here in Houston. And she is engaged, she has done many services. The 2 prominent ones are that she served as a mentor, and then she's also an educator. And you'll see in the class that she really is like a teacher, and she has very interactive classes. I came to know of her when we were doing a retreat in Vrindavan at the foothill of Govardhan. And she was very kind to invite me whenever we had the group discussions to be part of the group. And then also she invited me then to some pilgrimage places we went to. Probably she saw I was very confused, and she was very kind to me. So it's a great pleasure to have her here. And we'll welcome Mataji by saying Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Guru Bhakti Mataji, and thank you to all the Houston devotees. It's seeing your face, Guru Bhakti Mataji. I feel like I'm in Houston and with all the devotees there. So yeah, certainly I'm missing being there. We were planning to be there this month, but anyway, this is how it goes. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to say something about Bhakti Charu Maharaj. Actually, when Sarvabhauma Prabhu asked me to speak something on Maharaj, I was thinking, I never had much association with Maharaj, and I never did any service with him. And, what am I going to say about Maharaj? So I was kind of like feeling a little, I was feeling very incompetent. What would I say? But then actually I thought about our scriptures we have, like Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavad, Bhakti Ratnakar. These scriptures were written, their authors actually, as far as I know, they didn't really have much, if any, association with Lord Chaitanya and his associates. So when I thought about that, I realized that I felt a little confident, thinking that all I have to do is repeat. Whatever I've heard, I just repeat. It's not necessarily means that I have to have personal association. Although I had a little bit here and there, but yes, I felt a little confident about saying something, repeating something today. Actually, there are 3 ways that we can gain knowledge, and that is through Shabda, which is through hearing, and Anuman, which is through inference, and another through Pratyaksha, which means direct perception. So these are 3 ways, and I'll be kind of covering all these 3 ways of glorifying Maharaj. But before I say something about that, I wanted to express what is so special about glorifying a devotee. What is? We always hear that glorification is good, it purifies one's heart. Sometimes the word purification almost has a connotation of, could be a negative connotation, where it's like, Prabhu, you need some purification, you did something wrong, and now your heart needs to be cleansed, But purification, it doesn't have to be that way. Purification can be very sweet, actually. Cleansing your heart can be very sweet. And so I wanted to say what it is, what is that sweet exchange when we glorify a devotee. What really happens when you glorify somebody, and especially a devotee like Bhakti Charu Maharaj, or anybody for that matter? What's happening? And in order to tell you what's happening, I like to read something from Devamrita Maharaj's book. He has written a book called Bhakti Bhava. And in that book, he describes what happens when we glorify, and glorify may mean you're speaking, you're hearing, or you are reading about a great Vaishnava. It could be any one of that, or reading his writings or whatever that may be. So glorification includes all of that. So this is what Maharaj writes, and I found it very, very enlightening, enlivening, inspiring as I read this part. This is Maharaj, Devamrita Maharaj, again, another great soul. You read his books, some of them that he has published. But anyway, so I read this portion. He says, you hear from Prabhupada's books, you hear from advanced devotees, and then from within your heart arises a desire, quote, I want to be like that, unquote. Krishna is watching for that sprout. Spiritually, it's not a small thing. That flower bud of bhakti desire has immense ramifications. Often the excitement begins in this way. You see a happy devotee, and then from within your heart appears an aspiration. Oh, I wish I could be like that. Your spiritual heart sighs. Yes, every devotee experiences this periodically, I know. But Maharaj says one thing, but your mistake is thinking it is a small thing. No, that subtle shift within the heart is actually a monumental event. Krishna is in your heart, just watching and waiting for that magic moment when your heart longs. Oh, I wish I could feel like that. Oh, I wish I could be like that. Sensing the subtle fragrance of that flower bud of a spiritual desire, then Krishna starts to work. Favorable association, company that stirs your heart with sublime aspiration, that is sadhu sangha. So dear devotees, we can see that this is what happens. I know for the last 2 weeks, it's been 2 weeks now, Maharaj, it's been 2 weeks tomorrow that Maharaj has left. And although we've been in Maharaj's consciousness much more than before that, as we heard that he went to the hospital. And so we have been, all of us have been hearing about Maharaj, and there's just not enough of it. We want to hear more, and even if we hear the same thing, we want to hear it again. We want to hear it again and again. So this is what's happening. As far as I see when I'm reading Devamrita Maharaj's, what he's saying is that that Krishna is working within our heart, and as we are feeling happy and feeling wanting to hear, Krishna is just working in our heart, and he sees that magic moment, and he works within our heart, and he inspires us further to hear and want to be that devotee. So keeping that in our hearts, that how Krishna, so it's just not us and the person that we're glorifying, but Krishna is in the mix of this glorification. So he's sitting there, and as we're glorifying, we're hearing about Maharaj, then he is, he sees that, and he gives us more inspiration and more encouragement, and hopefully to advance and purify our hearts, to be purified in a very sweet way. Anyway, so having said that, let us dive into this very sweet exchange of glorifying Maharaj. So as I mentioned earlier, that I like to glorify him in 3 ways. And the first one I would like to start off with is anuman, and that is inference. Basically, not having a situation where I not necessarily had a personal association, but through somebody else. I infer that this is how Maharaj is. So before I start, I'll ask a question, and it's a rhetorical question, but something that you can think about. How many of you would be excited to hang around people that you work with after work? Maybe not that many, or maybe it's exceptional. So let me tell you about Maharaj. And this is something about Srila Prabhu, my husband, and Bhakti Charu Maharaj. So in 2016 to 2018, both of them were in the GBC Executive Committee. And I would say that, like Guru Bhakti Mataji said, that I've been married for 38 years, yeah. And when I got married to Srila Prabhu, he was the temple president. So I entered into a marriage where there was heavy management going on. And so I've seen management throughout my married life. But the intensity that I experienced in 2016 to 2018 was something that I've never experienced it. And I don't think so. Srila Prabhu had even experienced that kind of management. Because at that time he was dealing with, together with Maharaj and those who were in the executive committee, they were dealing with stopping the New York Brooklyn Temple sale. And I can say it was very intense, and I found myself praying a lot. And during that time, as they both were, Bhakti Charu Maharaj and Srila Prabhu were on the committee, I would say Maharaj was calling here practically every day, and not one time, but 2 or 3 times a day. The interesting part was that I found, and then I never said anything to Srila Prabhu about that, but what I noticed is that when Maharaj would call, Srila Prabhu wanted, like he was so excited to take that call. And I don't think so he was taking that call because he was excited to, hear about the latest plan, or maybe Maharaj had some solution to the problem. No, I could sense, I know him, and I knew it wasn't that, but there was something else. It was something there that he was just very excited to go and pick up that phone when Maharaj was calling. And there was a happiness in his voice as he answered the phone. It was, to me, what it seemed to me was like, if a little brother had an older brother who was very affectionate and loving, and so he's getting a call from a very loving, affectionate older brother. And so seemed like there was just so much excitement and happiness and solace, and everything all together was there. And certainly what they were dealing with if you can understand that, they're dealing with a problem where they're protecting their father's property that could be taken away. And most important property. And unfortunately, it was a situation that was another son was taking it away. I guess that's the simplest way I can say it. And so it's like, so you can imagine the intensity of that. And here they are, they're trying to do something, they're trying to protect it. And he would find solace in just hearing from Maharaj. And that wasn't my own perception. It wasn't my own perception. And why I say that, because it got confirmed, and I'll tell you how it was confirmed. Srila Prabhu is the pujari in our house, and he takes care of Giriraj. We have Sheila, and we had Giriraj in our house for 30 years now. And during his puja, he listens to a lecture every day. And he was hearing Prabhupada's lecture every day, and then he would listen to a couple God brothers' lecture. But during this time, all of a sudden, one day, I started hearing for the first time, he started hearing Bhakti Maharaj's class. And it went day after day after day. And what I realized was that he's not having enough of Maharaj. His association was as such that he was drinking it all and he wanted more and more. And so it was, to me, it was confirmed that this is what's happening here. He's just loving, he just loves Maharaj because Maharaj is just giving so much affection and so much love, and because who Maharaj is. Another thing that was happening was that when he was going there's a GBC meeting twice a year. So I'm talking about the same period, 2016 to 2018. And when I would call him, and again, these were intense times, so I was like concerned what was happening. So I would call him in India, and I would ask him, so Prabhu, how did the meetings go? And his response was, I had a pizza party with Maharaj. And so the next day I would call him, oh, so Prabhu, how did the meetings go? Oh, I'm going to go for pizza with Maharaj. And the next day, yeah, I just had pizza with Maharaj. So I stopped asking how did the meetings go. I would ask him, so how was the pizza party? But so what is it? What is that Maharaj is having after a long day of having meetings in the GBC meetings and then having pizza with his god brother? Is it because he loved pizza? Of course he loved pizza and he loved Chinese food, we know that. But what was it? And for me, it is that was Maharaj, Bhakti Maharaj knew the essence. He knew the essence, and that was loving relationship with the devotees. Keeping Srila Prabhupada in the center of his services and having exchanges, loving exchanges with the devotees. And that is, to me, he knew what is the essence. What is the essence of Krishna consciousness? And Maharaj tasted that. He loved it. He gave himself to others. There was nothing about me or I or me or mine. It was all about others. His emotions was for others, for the devotees, and for people in general. That's where his emotions were. That's where he gave himself. He had a golden heart. It was all about giving. I was thinking about Vasudev Dutt, I think, yeah, Vasudev Dutt. We read in the CC that how when Vasudev Dutt heard that Lord Chaitanya was in town and he was at Kurma Brahman's house, so Vasudev went to Kurma Brahman's house right away so that he could have darshan of Lord Chaitanya. But by the time he got there, Lord Chaitanya had left. And so Vasudev Dutt was totally morose. But Lord Chaitanya, who had already left, he knew the Lord knows everything. He knows the devotee's heart and everything. So Lord Chaitanya actually comes back to Kurma Brahman's house so as to give him that love that Vasudev Dutt was looking for. And that's what it reminded me of Bhakti Maharaj, that he was both. He was compassionate like Vasudev Dutt, and he was compassionate like Lord Chaitanya, who is ready to do anything for his god brothers or other devotees. and compassionate, like Vasudev Dutt, for everybody. That compassion was just not for, affection was not just for devotees, but that was also manifested in non-devotees, which we heard last week. I don't know if you remember that that incident that Srila Prabhu mentioned about the popcorn, and how he talked to that little boy, 11-year-old boy outside the pharmacy. I mean, that was Maharaj. It's not that he was trying to encourage the young boy by talking to him and buying his popcorn, but it was about, it's just, that's who Maharaj is. It's a very natural thing for him to give that compassion or affection to others. So that is something that I say from inference that about Bhakti Charu Maharaj, a real gentleman, a Vaishnava who had the 26 qualities of a devotee. So that's Bhakti Charu Maharaj. Now I'd like to say something about a retreat that I attended in Mayapur 20 years ago. So at that time, both my daughters were little, and Maharaj was taking all the devotees out on parikrama. And the very first thing that he said to us, a group of devotees were just standing there right outside the conch shell building. There weren't that many devotees. Those times the parikramas were not so big, so it was, you kind of get an intimate association. So we gathered there, and then Bhakti Charu Maharaj welcomed everybody, and then he said, appreciation is more important than austerity. And then he said that how he had arranged all kinds of vehicles for those who may not be able to go out on foot to all the places that we're going. So he had arranged a bus, a rickshaw, whatever there was. He had arranged for everybody that whoever could not walk or walk for some time and got tired, that they could sit in the rickshaw. And as a mother of two young kids, to me that was the first, like, such a refreshing and consoling thing that I heard, because I'm thinking, how am I going to do with my little girls? And I want to go on parikrama. I really want to go. I want to get Maharaj's association. I want to go and see all the places. And Maharaj just right away from the very start said, he made us all at ease that, okay, nothing to worry. Appreciation is more important than austerity. And again, the point that I was making earlier, that for me, Maharaj knew the essence. It's not about performing austerity. It is about appreciating the holy dham. And not that we're performing austerity and by the time we get to one place, we're tired and then we can't really appreciate. We're not listening to the Krishna Katha that may be going on there, that Maharaj may say. So he knew the essence. And yet at the same time, it's interesting that when we were at across the Jalangi, we were at Bhaktivinoda Thakur's home there, and we went up on the balcony, and we were standing there with Maharaj, watching the Jalangi and watching the devotees there. And so while Maharaj was standing there, he saw one of his disciples right outside their house was buying dab, the coconut, green coconut, and to drink juice. And Maharaj was so upset. He was so upset that why this is, in other words, this is not, the holy dham is not, you're not going on parikrama for enjoyment. So he chastised him. And so I realized that he knew the essence. He talked about appreciating the dham and don't worry about performing too much austerity if you can't. But then also don't be just relaxed about it. take the parikama seriously. It's not you're not going out on a tourist, a tour of the holy dham. No, be respectful, be appreciative, be respectful, and don't perform unnecessary austerity if you're not able to appreciate it. So just his whole mood was just set there when I went for that parikama, and I never forgot what he told. And again, it just shows his understanding of the scriptures and the essence of Krishna consciousness, the essence of going on parikama, and like that. Also, then another time that we attended a retreat here in Orlando, that was, I think, in 2008, and Maharaj was doing a retreat there. So he asked us to come. So we weren't really planning to spend the night there, and Maharaj, encouraged us to come and spend the night there. And so the place where we were staying, he asked us, he says, so do your daughters want to have a separate room, or they would be fine sleeping in the same room? And then just the details of everything. Oh, okay, they need a bed. So he actually got somebody to go and get these air beds and sheets and everything. Like, he made sure that all the arrangement was nicely taken care of. And that he was like that with everybody. That's just his hospitality, his Vaishnava. We all know that how he was such a cultured gentleman. And so I had first-hand experience of Maharaj's hospitality and his Vaishnava-like qualities. Another thing I remember there was a pool table where we were staying. And Maharaj we came down or something, and then I saw Maharaj there was playing pool. And that was so sweet. I mean, I really, really liked that. It's not that Maharaj likes to play pool or something, but for me it was, again, Maharaj was just so loving, down to earth. Here's a person, he's a sannyasi in his saffron robes. I wish I had taken a picture, but I have the picture in my mind, but he has the saffron robes, he has, I don't know what they're called, a stick, and he's doing it. And I think he was good at it. But yeah, it was just, he just knew how to interact with each devotee and to win our hearts. And so that's something that I was remembering that about him playing pool. Another time we attended a retreat was a few years ago. Oh yeah, this was in Deland, just a couple years ago. And no, actually it was in that other retreat that we had in Orlando, the previous retreat, that Maharaj had a Srila Prabhupada day. And it wasn't like Prabhupada's appearance or disappearance day, but he had a Srila Prabhupada day. And he asked each and every devotee to speak. It didn't make a difference whether they were big or small, kids, whoever. Everybody had to say something. You can imagine some of the kids probably didn't like, some of the adults probably didn't like, but it was so nice that we all felt comfortable because he asked everybody to do it. So he was so inclusive. And so everybody said something. And he said, if you can't speak, then read something from Prabhupada that you like, So another thing, that he was very, very inclusive, but not inclusive, but not only inclusive, but he always, I feel like, always put Srila Prabhupada in the center of his life and on the devotee's life. And for that, I wanted to read something by Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj. He wrote something that I really liked that described Bhakti Charu Maharaj. Srila Bhakti Charu Maharaj himself observed in one of his recent lectures that one of Srila Prabhupada's unique characteristic is that even in India, where everyone knows about ISKCON and Hare Krishnas, not so many people are aware about Srila Prabhupada's personality. Unlike many other charismatic Indian spiritual leaders, Srila Prabhupada did not want to promote himself. He was promoting the chanting of the holy name and the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and was not promoting himself. I want to take a little diversion here by saying something, was that when I was going to Santa Fe, and I took a world religion class, and that's interesting that in the world religion class, they had so many religions that were listed on one page, and such, and it was all about their founders, when they were born and when they died. So there was always a birth date and an expiry date, because it was all about the founder who founded that religion. But for the Hare Krishna movement, it said the Hare Krishnas, and it said the birth date of 1966, and there was no expiry date. So good thing was that there was no expiry date, and the sad thing was that Srila Prabhupada's name was not there. But if Srila Prabhupada's name was there, then there would have been expiry date. And so in one sense, but again, it tells about Srila Prabhupada putting the holy name and not promoting himself. Anyway, continuing with Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj, he says, in the similar way, Srila Bhakti Charu Maharaj, as an absolutely loyal disciple, was only promoting Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON. There is not the slightest trace of self-promotion in his presentation of Krishna consciousness. And that is one of the reasons why he was able to touch so many hearts. And that is one of the reasons why he was able to touch so many hearts. And even now, by his sudden departure, he continues to unify ISKCON. Now, everyone from the beginners to the greatest leaders feel united in glorification of Bhakti Charu Maharaj. And I was thinking that is such a nice, appropriate glorification, and it's such a fact that now everyone from the beginners to the greatest leaders feel united in glorification of Bhakti Charu Maharaj. I mean, just amazing. I mean, it's just amazing that how much glorification it's going on and continues to go on about Bhakti Charu Maharaj. And everybody is feeling so enlightened. Feeling enlightened and feeling the loss. Devotees are feeling such a loss with Maharaj leaving. It's a big loss. Even just a couple of days ago, Srila Prabhu was saying while he was dealing with something, and he said to me, he said, you know, this is what it is. I have this question, and this is the question that Maharaj would help me to how to deal with this situation. He says, this is where it is. I need his help. And then I think the next day he said to me, he said, yes, I figured out the answer. I know how Maharaj would deal with it. I thought about him and how he would deal with it, how the kind of person he is and how he would have. He said, so I'm going to deal how he would do it. So yes, it's such a loss, but it doesn't have to be a loss, because we can remember Maharaj, we can think about him, we can hear him, we can meditate on him, and he will help us in dealing with things or having improving ourselves, or whatever in whatever way we can think about him, and he'll be there for us. So yes, we have lost him, and no, we have not lost him, and that is so important to know. And that was kind of confirmed a couple of days ago when that happened, when Srila Prabhu said that. I want to do one last thing, but before it's a little meditation that I want to do in the end. but I thought that maybe if anybody has some questions or reflections that they would like to express, or questions they have to ask, they may do now, and then I will need maybe 5-6 minutes in the end to do my last meditation. I'd like to say that what they miss about Maharaj, or what was their interaction with Maharaj, or what they have heard recently that really stuck in their mind, in their heart.
Yeah. Just one comment. I didn't know Maharaj so well, but when he came to Houston last, I've had Parkinson's for some years, and he's so busy, he's such a big devotee, but he said, "Can you put tilak on?" He was just concerned. And then I said something that I got some advice from Hare Krishna, who has Parkinson's also. And he said, "Oh, it's so unfortunate." He had so much compassion, just in a few words. He cared about me, and he cared about this other devotee in my group. And it just, I was amazed that so many people never ask me a question like that, but he has very rarely comes to Houston, and he was so concerned. They're totally genuine. So I just wanted to mention that.
Anybody else would like to say something?
Hare Krishna, Madhumati.
Hi, Krishna.
This is Bhakti and Hannah.
Oh, hi, Krishna. Hannah. Nice to hear your voice.
Yeah, it was nice to hear your class. I really thought it was so nectarian, the point that you made, that if we see some good quality in some devotee, that is actually a monumental moment. It's not something small. I was telling Nitya and Winston the other day, we don't have spiritual vision, so we can't see the effect that something seemingly small actually has. And so hearing that, it made me appreciative of the devotees that I've heard appreciating Maharaj's great qualities, and how that also is another good quality of Maharaj's, because like you said, his emphasis was on loving relationships, and that's a type of also loving relationship to want to be like someone and appreciate their good qualities. So I was just thinking, wow, that was such a beautiful point, and it makes me want to be more conscious of that within myself. Next time I'm seeing someone and I might find fault, try to find something good about them and aspire to have that particular quality. So yeah, I really like that point.
Thank you. That's the magic moment that Devamita Mas says. That's the magic moment that Krishna is looking for. So to do his thing. So yeah, that's very nice. I really like that too. Anybody else would like to share anything? Otherwise, we will do our last bit here. Now, this last portion that I want to share is Maharaj's quality. That there's so many qualities of Maharaj, Bhakti Charu Maharaj, that I like. And I really like that he was very poetic. He was a lover of arts, literature, and all kinds of art. And I kind of include being poetic with all the different arts. And we know that he made the film, and such a nice meditation on Srila Prabhupada. And then he wrote the book Ocean of Mercy, and such a well-written book. Maharaj shares his time with Srila Prabhupada. And so he, the picture that he has on there, Ocean of Mercy, one devotee, Bhuijan Prabhu, who is another great Vaishnava, another great poet, scholarly, both Bhakti Chumart, such a scholarly person and so poetic, and Bhuijan Prabhu, so scholarly and so poetic. And the last part that I want to do is that I want to read is Bhuijan Prabhu's expressing his heart in response to seeing Maharaj's heart. So it's one devotee expressing his heart when he sees another devotee's heart. And it's just so beautiful. It's a very, and these people who are expressing each other's heart is not something, some sentimental. It's important to understand that, because sometimes, the boy is expressing something to the girl is sentimental. No, we're not talking about, we're talking about, the word that comes to my mind is bhavuka. That comes in the third verse of the Bhagavatam, is bhavuka. And that means expert and thoughtful. And so this is Bhuijan Prabhu is expressing that to about Bhakti Churu Maharaj's heart. And he does so by looking at the painting. So Winston Prabhu, do you mind putting the cover of the book, Ocean of Mercy?
Yes.
The first few lines of this poem is Bhuijan Prabhu is just talking to Maharaj. Those first few lines, and that's also in poetic form. And then the real poem starts. So as I read this poem, I just would like all of you to just meditate and look at this beautiful painting. Thank you, Winston.
As well.
In Ujjain, you choose to paint as the cover of the book a picture of your heart. I almost asked him to confess. No words replied. He only sighed a soft and thoughtful yes. A little boy in short pants is walked home by his father. Side by side, closely they walk. His father, a golden glowing saint, holds tight his son's hand. The boy glances up and fears nothing. He is not alone on the path home. Yet the sun is setting, as it must. The boy will cry, as he must. But he will walk on and will grow into his father's grown-up son. But never alone, holding tight that ever outstretched hand. And he did grow, and like his father also glowed, and loved his father's family, as did his father. And like his father, taught and shared and preached, showing culture and gentility, and caring for, and serving all others with grace. Time passed. His body slowly aged as it must, but inside, he grew neither weary nor old, nor stuffy nor grumpy, nor angry, nor cynical. His eyes never narrowed. His eyelids never drooped, but rather his dreams and heart expanded to the stars above. He remained always alive with a simple, warm innocence and childish glee. Always his father's son, always holding tight his father's hand, never alone. And now the sun has set again, as it must, at its ordained time. And although the world cries, dulls, dims, yet a great son of a great father, inside always small, but never alone, hand in hand with Prabhupada, has journeyed home. Bhakti Charu Maharaj ki jai. Thank you very much, devotees, for being here and giving me the opportunity to share some thoughts, and thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna to everybody.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for sharing and for such an organized and beautiful talk, and the beautiful readings that you did, and the poem finally that you read. So if there are no, does anyone have any other questions or shares? I wanted to share that for us, we lost Tamar Krishna Maharaj, our spiritual master, and losing Bhakti Charu Maharaj was like we lost twice. That's how it felt like. I have never experienced that kind of feeling for anyone before. So it was quite an amazing thing to experience.
Yes, it's been a pretty amazing journey up with Maharaj and seeing. I don't know what it is about Maharaj that it has been a very very emotional and very difficult thing about Maharaj leaving. Yes, I wasn't planning to share that, but the Saturday when I was at the temple, Saturday morning at that time I was at the temple, so I came home, and so when I came home, I didn't know, and I saw Shamadarshini, my younger one, reading something, and she was standing near our temple room reading something to her dad, who was doing Giraj's puja. And so I came and I saw him. He had Giraj in his hand, but his body was shaking, and I realized he was just crying, weeping, and I realized what happened, and I had never seen Srila Prabhu like that. I've never seen him ever in my life like that. And I was thinking, wow, I mean, yeah, it's just the love that everybody has for Maharaj, and because Maharaj gave his heart to everybody, and it's just a very difficult thing, but Maharaj is here, and we can hear from Maharaj and from everybody else. Thank you again. Nobody has any questions, so we can say thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say that our speaker next week is going to be His Holiness Ritajuta Swami.
I couldn't hear that. Go back to Mataji.
His Holiness Ritajuta Swami will be our speaker next week.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you for letting us know that. Thank you. Okay.
I'll hand it over to Winston now. Winston, do you have a kirtan you're going to play, or?
Yes. Thank you so much, Madhumati Mataji, for sharing your wonderful realizations and reflections on the Glorification.